In chapter 907 of One Piece, we first learn about an infamous pirate called 𝙻𝚎𝚐𝚐𝚗𝚍, and since that chapter, we've learned that he not only tried to take over the entire world, but that he was also the captain of a crew that included 3 future emperors of the sea. And so in this video, we're going to explain everything that we know for a fact, all the hints about his past, and even some incredible speculations about his true purpose in the story. Now, since we don't really know a whole lot about rocks, it is important to clarify and clearly explain what is fact or close to fact and what is speculation. And to do that, we're going to break up all the information about rocks into 6 categories, and in each category discuss what we know and what we can speculate. Starting with a brief introduction of his character. In chapter 907, Luffy's grandfather Monkey D. Garp first revealed that the Rocks pirates ruled the seas 40 years ago, which is about 14 years before Goldie Roger became the first pirate king. Garp tells a young group of marines that if the Rocks pirates were to reform, then they would be a threat beyond what any of them could possibly imagine. And then 50 chapters later, the former Fleet Admiral Sengoku reveals a boatload more about Rocks and his insane crew. For one, we learned that the world government considered Rocks to be their biggest threat, and it took an unbelievable effort to stop him from taking over the entire world, which we will of course discuss in more detail later on. And so let's dive into what was probably the most strong pirate crew in the history of One Piece ever. Here are the facts. On this ridiculous crew were 3 future emperors of the sea: the strongest creature in the world, Kaido, the monstrous mother Big Mom, and former strongest man in the world, Whitebeard. Now, besides these 3 powerhouses, we have Shiki, who was a former rival of Roger's, and in addition we have this old lady, Miss Buckin, who was part of the crew before she then joined the science group Mads that was founded by Vegapunk. Then we have Silver Axe, who is a complete mystery, Captain John, who had a famous treasure that Buggy was looking for, died, and then unfortunately got reanimated and turned into a zombie on Thriller Bark by Moria. And finally there was Wang Zi, also known as Ochoku, and while we don't know a whole lot about Ochoko, we do know that he ruled over the Rocks pirates' former base island until he was defeated by Blackbeard. And of course we cannot mention a pirate crew without also discussing their ship. While we don't have any other information about it, you can see that this is a quite large vessel and pretty damn intimidating. Now let's shift to discussing the relationships of this wild crew, because it is unlike anything that we've seen in the story so far. Because in chapter 957, Sengoku revealed that the crew's dynamic was horribly toxic. The Rocks crew members would regularly fight and sometimes even kill each other, but what is even more interesting is that we can speculate about the crew's relationships from all the other clues sprinkled throughout the story. First of all, Whitebeard seems to have had a very negative experience on Rocks' crew. His reaction was kinda like a boss you hate to work for. In chapter 964, Whitebeard initially refuses to let the samurai Odin join his crew because Whitebeard had a bad experiences with his own previous crew, which was most likely the Rocks pirates. And from this, we can assume that he has a lot of resentment from his time on Rocks' crew, since it is still bothering him decades later. It seems like Whitebeard has learned that having too many strong-willed personalities on one ship might destroy a crew. This also supports Sengoku's claims that the crew was in a state of near constant chaos, which, looking at all the members, makes a lot of sense. Another fact is that Big Mom did not seem to trust Rocks at all either. In chapter 1041, during a flashback, we see that Kaido has just joined the Rocks crew, and Big Mom tells Kaido that if he needed anything, he should count on her because Rocks was not trustworthy. And so from this all, it seems that Rocks did not lead by inspiring trust and loyalty, as it seems that many of them did not even like him in the slightest bit. And this mistrust had the ultimate consequence for Rocks when the crew later abandoned him, as we'll discuss in just a second. Now, if this is true, then we have to wonder how exactly Rocks keeps this crazy crew together in the first place. And so let's now shift over and dive into everything that we know about 𝙻𝚎𝚐𝚐𝚗𝚍 as a person, as well as his powers and history. Of course, starting with the fact that he is dead. Maybe. Even though Sengoku tells us that Rocks is dead, the circumstances of his mysterious disappearance make me believe that that is not all that we've seen from such an important character. And let's compare this situation to an equally famous dead pirate. The execution of Roger is the first scene in the entire story, and while we don't learn a lot more about Roger until much later on, his influence is present all throughout One Piece and the entire world. From his former crewmates, his rivals, and even the fact that we found clues about his journey along Luffy's path. However, while Rox was pretty much an equally and probably even more so powerful and influential figure as Roger was, we did not learn anything about him for over 900 chapters. And so that kind of makes me think that one, he is either still alive and going to play a role later on in the story, or two, he is dead, but we will get a huge reveal about his past in the upcoming arcs. Previously on this same channel, we have even discussed the possibility that he might have been Luffy's other grandfather, or another theory by the creator Arthur that speculates that he could actually be the secret ruler of the world right now, in other words, Emu. After all, taking over the world was Rox's goal in the first place, and these two characters were introduced so close together in the story. But whether he's dead or secretly still alive, we can reasonably assume that he seems to have been evil. We do know that Garp and Roger, both of whom are quote-unquote good characters, tried to stop him from achieving his goals. Also, Whitebeard clearly didn't like him, and the world government considered the Rocks pirates terrorists. And so whatever his true intentions were, maybe they were good, but in the end, it is very likely that he seems to have committed some truly terrible acts in the pursuit of his dreams. And what were his dreams? Well, we were told by Sengoku that Rox was ambitious and his dream was to be king of the world, and damn, that is a title that we've basically never heard anyone use before. Not only did he want to become Pirate King like Luffy, it seems that he truly wanted to dominate and rule over everyone and everything. And he almost succeeded, which again we will discuss during the final battle later on. And this leads to another really interesting question. Can someone be king of the world without being insanely powerful? After all, we do know that it took both Roger and Garp teaming up together to defeat Rox, and he was considered the former Pirates King's greatest rival, so clearly he was an extremely strong fighter. Now we do know that Rox used a sword, as we are shown in this scene here in the silhouette, and even Kaido considered Rox to be one of the few pirates who could give him a true challenge. And since we also know that Kaido, Big Mom, and Whitebeard all had Conqueror's Haki, extremely strong one with that, it makes a lot of sense that their former captain would have all these extremely high levels of Haki as well. Now, this is speculation, but his Conqueror's Haki could have also been on a completely different level since he was able to command all of them. And this is even more supported because his main goal was to be king of the world, and if that's not the spirit of a legendary conqueror, then I don't know what is. Now, one thing that we do have no details about is if Rox actually had a devil fruit. Now, there is no mention of such power, so it is completely possible that he did not have a devil fruit similar to Roger, Shanks, or Garp. Or he might have had one and we just haven't been told yet. Another possibility that we can speculate about is that Rox was patiently waiting to get the right devil fruit, doesn't sound like anyone familiar, and that Rox was basically finally going to get that devil fruit during the legendary battle on God Valley. And alongside his powers, Rox was deeply curious about the true history that we do know. Sengoku tells us that he broke many of the world's taboos and that he was erased from history because of that sin. And we all know that that can just mean one thing. It means that he was researching the poneglyphs, which are these unbreakable stones that tell the true history of the Void Century. Now, throughout the story, researching the poneglyphs is the only reason the world government has erased a whole group of people, such on the island of Ohara, and as they're trying to do to the government scientist Dr. Vegapunk in the current arc. And this allows us to speculate that either Rox himself could read the poneglyphs or that he knew someone who could. Now, this idea opens up a whole new avenue for theories. For example, one interesting theory centers around the mysterious Three-Eyed Tribe, which was first mentioned in chapter 853. That was during the Whole Cake Island arc where we meet Big Mom's daughter, Pudding. She was born with a third eye, meaning that her father must have been from the Three-Eyed Tribe. Now, according to Big Mom, people from this tribe naturally possess the ability to use the voice of all things, though in Pudding's case, she seems to not have awakened that power quite yet. Now, in case you're wondering, this mysterious power allows certain people to hear the thoughts of animals such as the Sea Kings and even vaguely understand the words on the poneglyphs. But now you might be asking, how does Big Mom know about this tribe in the first place? These are all speculations, but a simple though unlikely answer is that she could have randomly found them on an island somewhere out there in the world. But we've never seen this tribe anywhere else before, and only very few people seem to even know that they exist in the first place. And so another and maybe more likely possibility is that Rox himself was from the Three-Eye tribe, or that he had someone on his crew who was as well. This would of course explain how he could research the history of the White Century, since only 2 people are confirmed to be able to read the poneglyphs right now. Kaido also knows of the secret ability of the Three-Eye tribe, so he could have also learned it from Rox, as he was on the same crew. And it would also make sense that they learned about the poneglyphs and the true history from Rox as well, since we're never told that either of them traveled to Lodestar Islands. That's because in chapter 820, we're being told that it is on Lodestar Island that a person is supposed to first learn about the poneglyphs. But moving back to some facts, Rox was also a member of the D-Clan. People who have this initial, such as Luffy, Blackbeard, and Dragon, are said to be the enemies of the gods, of the celestial dragons. So it would only make sense that he was also likely a very charismatic leader, similar to Luffy, and he somehow convinced all of these strong pirates to come together to make one big score, and that one big score seems to have been taking out all of the celestial dragons on the legendary island of God Valley, and you can also land one big score by subscribing to the channel to receive more videos just like this one. So let's now finally discuss what happened on the legendary island of God Valley and the legendary battle where Rox was finally defeated. First, we know that 38 years ago, the Rox pirates attacked a mysterious island that was inhabited by celestial dragons. This event has been covered up by the world government because basically no one in the world knows about it except for people who were there or some of the higher up and more older Marines. Part of the reason that it was covered up is the fact that Rox could only be stopped by an alliance between a much younger Garp and Goldie Roger before he became Pirate King. And honestly, if you can imagine it, what a clash this must have been. Rox, Roger, Whitebeard, Garp, Big Mom, Kaido. Please, Oda-sensei, show us more of this legendary fight, please? And while we know next to nothing about the actual battle or that island itself, which has vanished completely from the maps, we are told that Garp and Roger defended the celestial dragons and their slaves who were on that island. But part of this does not make any sense. You see, we know that Garp hates the celestial dragons, and he has even refused to become an admiral specifically because he doesn't want to take their orders. So we really have to wonder why he, and specifically Roger, saved the celestial dragons and God Valley. There are a few options, and the last one will probably completely blow your minds. But first of all, the easiest possibility is that Garp simply protected the slaves on God Valley. Certainly that would fit with Garp's character. Another interesting option that I've theorized about in a separate video is that Garp, Roger, and Rox were all once on a little crew together before Rox went power crazy and Garp joined the Marines. So perhaps Garp and Roger felt that it was their duty to stop Rox before he did something insanely evil as their former comrades. However, the final option was that there was something else on God Valley that Garp and Roger could simply not allow Rox to take or get his hands on. But what could this magical treasure be? Maybe, but no. In all seriousness, it is actually highly plausible that the world government's devil fruits were kept on God Valley and that this is what Rox was after all along. I do go into a lot more detail and then a lot more evidence of this theory in my specific video on that, but let's briefly discuss the topic here. The idea is that devil fruits are the source of the magical powers in the One Piece world, so obviously they are incredibly valuable. We know that the world government likes to gather devil fruits such as the Ope Ope no Mi, and that government's agents can sometimes get strong devil fruits, such as when these two secret agents were giving their devil fruits in Enies Lobby. And so the question becomes, what if the government have a large store of devil fruits or even a devil fruit tree itself, that used to be on God Valley. And while this is a theory and speculation, there is actually a lot of evidence to support that. For example, in chapter 999, Big Mom reminds Kaido that she gave him his legendary dragon devil fruit on the same day as the battle on God Valley where the Rocks pirates fell to ruin. Wouldn't that suggest that she found it on God Valley during the chaos of the battle? Similarly, we do not know where Whitebeard got his legendary Tremor fruit, which is said to be capable of destroying islands and even the world. We never see him use it until after the God Valley incident, so what if he also found his fruit during that battle? And remember when we said that Rox's toxic crew dynamic would surely come back to bite him? Well, it is interesting to see that every member of Rox's crew abandoned him at God Valley. What if this crew, who didn't really care about their captain, got their strong devil fruits and then just left? It also goes along with the idea that the Rocks crew was formed to make one big score, so once they all had their own powerful devil fruits and fulfilled their plan, the crew didn't really care to stick around because they had all fulfilled its purpose. And if this is all true, we have to imagine that Rox was after his own immensely powerful devil fruit as well, so that he could take over the world. And I do know that we're at this point really deep into theory territory, but let me make one last connection before we get back to things that we actually do know for a fact. Because if Rox was seeking a devil fruit to help him conquer the world, wouldn't it make sense that he would want the strongest one possible? Well, we're told that many people consider a certain devil fruit to be the most dangerous ability in history, and that is the darkness fruit, which was eaten later by Blackbeard. What if Rox was seeking this fruit on God Valley specifically and he didn't fail, but that he actually got the fruit and into the world before he died or disappeared forever? And so now let's shift to Blackbeard, because out of any character in the story, he has by far the most direct connection to Rox in the story at the moment. Here are the facts. Blackbeard named his own ship the Saber of Xebec, a clear reference to Rox 𝙻𝚎𝚐𝚗𝚡. The two pirates also appear to have the same method of building crews based solely on strength and kind of getting something out of it for everyone. For example, Blackbeard gathered a large part of his crew by having prisoners fight to death and then only taking the strongest survivors. And Rox's crew was well known to fight each other as well. Also, both crews seem to have a large number of devil fruit users, and Blackbeard has ensured that most members of his crew have a devil fruit as well. With Rox's crew, we don't know if all of them had devil fruits, but Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom all eventually got overpowerful devil fruits. And Blackbeard also cares a lot about dreams and wants to conquer the world, just like Rox 𝙻𝚎𝚐𝚗𝚡. They are also the only members of the D clan who appear to be outright evil. Hell, even their smiles are eerily similar. They have also both made this island their home base. This island has many names, including Beehive, 𝚐𝚎𝚐𝚗𝚡, or simply Pirate Islands. This is where the Rocks pirates originally were formed, and after the crew disbanded, it was taken over by the former Rocks pirates Ochoku. That man was ruling 𝚐𝚎𝚐𝚗 until then Blackbeard claimed the island during the time skip. And coincidentally, this incident also involved Marine Vice Admiral Kobe and was called the Rocky Port Incident. And while we don't know Ochoku's exact powers, he must have been strong, because Blackbeard said that he only was able to overthrow Ochoku due to the assistance of Luffy's friend and Marine Vice Admiral Kobe during the Rocky Port Incident. And Blackbeard hasn't changed much since he took over that island. With partying and drinking all around, it is truly a lawless pirate paradise. And while Blackbeard now currently rules this island, there is some room to theorize that Buggy the Clown may eventually make an appearance on the island as well. How, you ask? Well, remember that Buggy has long been chasing the treasure of the former Rocks pirate Captain John. In chapter 233, we see Buggy searching for the treasure on an island with an enormous skull. And while this turned out to be the wrong island with a giant skull, 𝚐𝚎𝚐𝚗𝚡 also has this giant skull as well. So wouldn't it make sense that Captain John's treasure was still on the island of the former Rocks pirates? And so this could eventually lead Buggy, who is now an emperor as well, to that island as well. And who knows, maybe at the end of the story, this could be Buggy's home base. But enough of Buggy. Let's get back to Blackbeard. With all of the connections between him and Rocks, let's explore their relationship a little bit further. We already discussed how Rocks could have previously wanted Blackbeard's devil fruit. A common theory within the community is that Rocks actually ate the darkness fruit and his soul is still living inside of that fruit. fruit. Now, before you call me crazy, let me explain. The darkness fruit is said to be a strange fruit compared to every other devil fruit. It doesn't work like a typical Logia fruit, as it absorbs all attacks instead of being unaffected by common attacks as it should be. Also, one of the main powers that we see Blackbeard use to suck everyone in is a black hole. If it can suck in people and buildings, it isn't that much of a stretch to think that it could also contain a soul. So could Blackbeard actually have a piece of rocks inside of him? There's some evidence that this could very much be possible. We have multiple references of Blackbeard possibly being multiple people. Marco the Phoenix claims that he has a very weird body, which might be the reason why he's able to eat 2 devil fruits. Luffy and Zoro mentioned that he could be more than one person, and after a battle, apprentices Buggy the Clown and Shanks discuss how Blackbeard is rumored to never sleep, although this occurred before Blackbeard ever obtained his darkness fruit. And this could mean that he has multiple personalities that come awake while the other ones are asleep. Now, whether or not this is true, there is certainly some connection between these two characters. It could be that Blackbeard is somehow related to Rocks, as Blackbeard was born 2 years before the God Valley incident. Another option is that Blackbeard inherited Rocks' will after reading a journal or something like that left behind by Rocks, and that he's now trying to achieve Rocks' dream sometime in the future. And speaking of the future, Rocks' influence will undoubtedly impact the story later on. If he's still alive, he will surely show up to be a true obstacle for the Straw Hats, or if he is actually dead, we could learn a lot more about him from many different characters. The upper tier Marines like Garp, Sengoku, or the Commander-in-Chief Kong should certainly know a lot more about this character, and Shanks and the other Roger pirates could know about Rocks as well. And certainly Big Mom and Kaido know about him if they're still alive. The 5 elders and Emu should also know exactly what happened to Rocks, and even Buggy, if he were to ever find Captain John's treasure, could discover real clues about this mysterious figure. And I can imagine that at the same time that we found out more about Rocks 𝙻𝚎𝚐𝚐, we will also find out even more information about the most mysterious and influential character in the entire series, Joy Boy. Much like Luffy and Blackbeard are basically opposites, the Joy Boy from the Void Century and Rocks appear to have opposing roles in the story. Joy Boy brings liberation, while Rocks wants to conquer and rule the world, and this insane connection will undoubtedly influence the future of the story. So who is Joy Boy, and what do we know about this figure from the Void Century? If you want to find out, you can watch this video right here. Thanks for watching.